Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome back to yet another video of Moto Mindset. And today we are going to begin a bike review, the Suzuki Bandit 600S. And oh man, what is it nice to be back on the Suzuki. I started on the GSX 600F from 1994 and this is only 2 years older. But it is different than this GSX, the Bandit. So this is where this review is all for you guys. And before everyone gets mad in the comment section down below, I got quite some flashback in the previous video. This is my opinion only, and you should do with it whatever you want. And I think my score makes sense, and if you don't agree with me, I don't care. It's my video. So, what I usually do is I have 4 categories, and all categories have subcategories. And that makes a little bit of a score, and every value I gave, I explain why I gave it between a 1 and a 10. And therefore, if you are planning to start on a bike like this or any other bike I made a beginner review about, you know where you should know a little bit about what to expect and what to take into account when you are seriously considering buying the bike. So the first category is riding, and the first subcategory is engine power. And with around 77 horsepower, it really depends on the year. This bike is built from 1996 to 2004, and there's some fluctuations in the horsepower, but approximately 77 horsepower. It's quite powerful for a beginner. It's manageable, but it's not really beginner ideal, and it's just the same as I said to my about the beginner review of my GSX 600F, because it's basically the same engine, only this one is tuned a little bit easier than the GSX, but still it's quite a powerful bike, and for the engine power therefore it scores a 5. And then we have engine power delivery. How does the bike deliver the 77-ish horsepower? And I have to say, as well as the GSX, it's the same engine basically. It's very smooth and it's very predictable. And for a beginner rider, that's what you want. You don't want hiccups or rear tire lockups because you make a shifting mistake, anything like that. It's 600cc. It's not the biggest, not the smallest, but it's an inline 4. It's very predictable. And if you really want to go fast, you really need to jank up the RPMs to above 7,000 RPMs, otherwise it's a very chill, relaxed experience. And therefore, engine power delivery, it scores a 9. So engine power a 5, because it is quite powerful. Not the most powerful bike in the world, it's not Air 1 or anything like that. But how it delivers, I would say, very suitable for beginner riders. And next up we have the weight. And it's on the more heavy side. It's not as heavy as the Shadow on the left, who was 245 kilos. See my video about him. But this one is also more heavy than it looks. It's 210 kilos. I would say this bike should be 190. And then you think 220 kilos? Yeah, that really makes a difference. And therefore, the heavier a bike is, the harder it is to control it on low speeds and stuff like that. It's great on the highway, but for low speeds can be tricky. Therefore it scores a 4. And then we have stability. The bike feels really planted, even in corners and of course on the highway. It forgives minor rider errors, which is very important for beginner riders. And yes, the weight brings it a bit down on slower speed, but other than that, it's quite good stability wise, and therefore it scores a 7. And next we have aerodynamics. The half fairing gives decent wind protection, but you're still full in full your face, and the upper side of your body is still pretty vulnerable for the wind. It's not like a cruiser or anything. It's not built to be like that, but it isn't, and therefore it scores a 6. And then we have the last category of riding, and that is fun. And this bike can be a great mix of power and usability. Once you gain confidence, it's a genuine fun bike to ride. And I think you won't outgrow this as fast as other beginner bikes. It is on the more power hungry, and it is more heavy than you might want. But other than that, it's great fun, and therefore it scores a 7. And if we combine all those numbers and separate it by the amount of numbers we have, we get a subtotal, which is a 6.33. A solid but little heavy choice, best for confident beginner riders, or as a second bike. And then we go to the second category, which is reliability. You don't want your Retty, a powerful horse, to be in this stable all day. You don't want to, you just want to ride it even if you're a beginner rider. And the first category is just overall reliability. How amazing are those bikes? And these bikes are very durable engines with a reputation to go a long life. This bike is also 30 years old and it just rides like a modern bike. It just misses some features, but other than that, it rides amazing. And there are very minimal issues known. Some minor things, but usually it's just age dependent and not really how the bike is built. Those bikes are simple, easily built, easily maintained, great overall reliability, and therefore overall reliability it scores an 8. And then we have the age. As I mentioned before, the older the bike, the more goes down. And usually the things that go down are age related. And this bike is 30 years old, newer models might be 25 years old. It's just really old, and wear and tear will impact the reliability of this bike. And expect age related maintenance when you buy something like this. So either do it yourself or pay someone to do it. You will have breakdown because of age. And therefore, age-wise, it scores a 2. And then we have knowledge. How much is there known about those bikes? Might something go wrong? And I have to tell you, everyone started on a Bandit, or anything similar to a Bandit, or anyone knows someone who started on a Bandit. There's a large community, there are lots of documentation online, very beginner mechanic friendly, and there knowledge-wise, this bike scores an 8. And then we have parts availability. If something breaks down, can you buy something new? And the answer is simple. There's a large community. There are a decent amount of parts available, especially second hand. Even a lot of OEM items are still available. Some maybe very niche items can be tricky, but nothing really to worry about. Parts availability wise, and therefore for parts availability this bike scores a 7. And that was already the last category of reliability. And if we combine numbers, separate numbers, we get an average, and the average for reliability is a 6.25. A super solid engine, but not underestimate the effort of maintaining an older bike. And then we go to maybe the most important category, safety. And the first subcategory of category is brakes. Not unimportant as well. And I have to say, maybe my bike was differently maintained, but I felt my GSX 600F braked better. It can be a lot of issues, a lot of different things. Those bikes are 30 years old, so a lot of things could happen in the past. But in general, the brakes are okay, but very not modern. The rubber brake lines will wear out, and if you replace them with steel ones, that's a lot better. But generally, people usually don't do that. And the old calipers reduce brake performance. So there are way better brakers, even from this area. And brake-wise, this bike scores a 4. And then we have ABS, and this bike doesn't have one, and that makes this part pretty short, because ABS wise this bike scores a 1. And then we have visibility. The stock lighting is really weak. It's no LED of course, because it wasn't available at the time, but For example, the bike in front of me has way bigger lights and better lights than this bike. Funny enough, the mirrors, which help me see the outside world in from behind, are way better than my GSX 600F, which was 1 year older. But still, visibility-wise, a motorbike is just way better, and therefore visibility-wise, the bike scores a 4. And then we have the last category of safety, which is safety tech. And that can be anything like power controlling, wheelie control, and stuff like that. But it's also simple. This bike has nothing tech-wise helping with safety. ABS is its own thing, and therefore, safety tech-wise, this bike also scores a 1. And that brings the total for safety to a 2.5. Safety tech is outdated. New riders need to compensate with skill and caution. And the question is, do new riders are the type of riders who have skills and caution? I don't know. It's up to you. And then we have the next category, which is price. If you want to start on a bike, you don't want it to be too expensive, because if you crash it, you cry for months instead of days or weeks. And the first subcategory is how expensive are those machines to buy in the first place. And there are an excellent value to the used market. They're as cheap as you can find them. 500 euros, 1000 euros, 1500 euros for a better bike. But often outpriced for, there's almost nothing you can buy which brings you more value for your money. And therefore, purchase price wise, this bike scores a 9. And then we have maintenance cost. It's very do-it-yourself friendly and a very cheap parts, and therefore affordable to maintain. But if you have to bring it to the shop, it can get out of hand pretty easily. The older the bike, the less likely a shop knows what to do with it. It's just the facts. And also, a carburetor will give you a headache once in a while. But if you are a little bit handy, you can do a lot yourself, and that is really a plus. So maintenance cost wise, this bike scores a 7. And then we have how expensive is it to operate, operating cost. Fuel economy wise, it was quite good in the days. Nowadays, way better, of course. But what do you expect? 30 years old. But enduring it is very cheap. So it goes two ways. Enduring is very cheap because the bike is cheap, and riding it can be expensive because a lot of gas. Therefore, we go to the middle and it scores a 5. And that makes the average for price a 7. So it's a very budget-friendly way to get into riding, especially for do-it-yourself-minded beginners. But what does it tell you? What's the verdict of all this? And my Moto Mindset verdict of the Suzuki Bandit 600S from 1996 to 2004 is a 5.52.
Wait, what?
Okay, let me explain. We're right in the middle. Between 1 and a 10, 5.5 is exactly the middle. So, why do we get this number? The thing is, I review it like you buy this bike in 2025, the year of the release of this video, while being 30-ish years old. And it's a very solid but heavy bike. And it's best suited for confident beginners or just as a second bike. So for a real beginner bike, it might be too heavy and might be too powerful. Even though the delivery of the power is amazing and it's great fun and stuff like that. It has a very solid engine, but don't underestimate the efforts of maintaining an older bike. If you have a new bike, you probably want to ride and you don't want to twinkle it around and bring it to the shop all the time. You probably want to ride. Don't underestimate that. And safety wise, it really lacks a lot of safety features newer bikes has. brakes are old, rubber, you should replace it with steel. You should replace the calipers with more performance calipers, which brings the cost up to almost just a modern bike. No ABS, really a big deal. Almost nobody brakes better than ABS does. Stock lightning, debatable, but I think it's very important to be visible and see good. And just no safety features, which is terrible. And price-wise, it's very budget-friendly, and I think that's the reason why a lot of people start on a machine like this. But this is what I think. I hope you liked the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Cheers.